Scuderia Ferrari is tired of losing in Formula One. To put it bluntly, they are fed up with it. Why? It's simple. The Prancing Horse has everything it needs to get back to winning ways. They just need to continue down this path and show up at every race at their best. If we look back 1 year, we discover that the gaps were much larger compared to what is currently seen on the track. The work is gradually paying off, and the gap to Red Bull is getting smaller. During the Imola weekend, as always, we detailed everything and more about the performance and the operating mode of the Maranello team. This is done with data in hand because the necessary information to calculate everything you want is available. You just need to be willing to do it. This means that beyond subjective interpretations, which are more than fair to make, using the right tools, we can understand many things that are often confirmed by those directly involved: drivers, engineers, technicians, and so on. No one is perfect, and mistakes can happen, of course, but with certain analyses, it's possible to refine an opinion and present what happens with great precision. This is why we try with great effort every Formula One weekend. In the last Grand Prix, we saw a promising Ferrari, but still not up to par in some fundamental aspects. Team principal Fred Vasseur thoroughly explained them at the end of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix last Sunday. He informed the media and the journalists, presenting all the useful information about it. These considerations correspond to our analyses and confirm how the Italian side is in a strong phase of progress. It must be noted, however, that at the moment, they are still not on par with Red Bull, and in the last 2 races, after the highly successful upgrade introduced by McLaren in the Miami Grand Prix, they are also trailing the team led by Andrea Stella. Nevertheless, Ferrari's progress is evident and should be appreciated. The disappointment of Imola's spectators regarding Ferrari's results is palpable. It's understandable. After all, the 3 free practice sessions for the 7th round of the championship showed an updated SF24 car in great shape, and just before the qualifying session, Ferrari, along with McLaren, seemed to be the favorite in the battle for pole position, which we all know is very important on a track like Imola. But unfortunately, we know well how it turned out, with the 2 Ferrari cars struggling significantly in the first sector, showing a clear limitation in maximizing this section of the beautiful track located on the banks of the Santerno River, a phrase that carries an absolute truth in life. However, the world of Formula One is truly complicated, and it is precisely through explaining why one doesn't win that things can improve and perhaps succeed the next time. As we know, in the current Formula One championship, Ferrari has chosen to prioritize the race pace. They did so based on a clear premise. It is in this competitive context that points are collected. But if the qualifying session is lacking, a lot of problems and complications can arise on Sunday during the race, especially if the track does not favor overtaking, as was the case in Imola, or if the level of the leading teams is very close between them. This scenario played out at Imola 2 days ago on Sunday. Ferrari's team principal makes no secret of it. According to Frederic Vasseur, if the 2 SF24 cars had started from the front row, the race result could have been very different. In fact, for the French manager, the possibility of a 1-2 finish was clearly within reach in Italy. Perhaps his prediction was a bit optimistic, as the pace of the Italian cars was slightly inferior to that of Red Bull and McLaren. At the same time, however, it is true that Oscar Piastri's MCL 38 in the first part of the event was unable to get past Carlos Sainz's car on track. This, despite having a decidedly better rhythm, access to the drag reduction system, and the medium tires not being particularly favorable to Ferrari. So the always cheerful Fred Vasseur perhaps wasn't entirely wrong. A small digression confirms a fact. The new version of the SF24 car generates less drag. We discussed this yesterday in a different video because the expected step forward by the Maranello technicians was indeed confirmed. Reducing drag was one of the main goals of the first aerodynamic package introduced by Ferrari this season, and the proof, as they say in these cases, has arrived. Let's continue the discussion to reach the focal point of this video. Ferrari is working on the pace and performance of the qualifying session. They are doing so while continuing to prioritize the race, but with a different awareness. Some setup changes during the free practice sessions are necessary. This measure will modify the weekend's work program, giving more space to maximizing performance with empty fuel tanks. In short, being better prepared for the flying lap. An important decision made after analyzing the first third of the 2024 Formula One Championship. The historic Italian team is no longer at the mercy of events as it was in the recent past. Unlike the period when Mattia Binotto was in charge of the Ferrari racing department, they do not require long times to adopt new methods and approaches. For this simple reason, the focus on the qualifying performance will be significantly greater from now on, a setup that will therefore try to take more account of the result on Saturday. The Monaco Grand Prix is coming in just a few days, where the importance of the result in the qualifying session is vital for winning. What better practice than the Monte Carlo streets? The slow-speed Monaco turns should suit the SF24 car, and there is no reason why Ferrari won't challenge for the win with Red Bull and McLaren. The Maranello team's third and fifth in Imola perhaps wasn't what fans wanted from their upgrade, which debuted at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. However, both Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were positive about the updates, which worked as planned. For the Monegasque driver, this weekend will of course be a special one, as he will race in front of his home fans. Most Formula One drivers thrive at their home track, but Charles Leclerc has unfortunately suffered plenty of misfortune in Monaco. In 2018, in his first Monaco Grand Prix, he was taken out of the race going into the Nouvelle Chicane as Brendan Hartley hit the back of him. A year later, Charles Leclerc was eliminated in Q1 and retired in the race due to contact with the wall at Rascasse. In 2021, he took pole position for Ferrari despite bringing out the red flag in Q3 when crashing at the swimming pool chicane. Ferrari thought they repaired his car, but on race day, the Maranello team discovered a problem on the way to the grid, and Charles Leclerc failed to start due to a drive shaft failure. 12 months on, Charles Leclerc was winning the race but lost out to his rivals through strategy and finished fourth. Last year, there was little Charles Leclerc could do to stop the Red Bull rocket ship on pace alone, but his three-place grid drop for impeding Lando Norris in qualifying didn't help as he dropped to sixth, and even with the wet-to-dry race offering more jeopardy than usual, he finished the race exactly where he started. The 26-year-old had a slightly disappointing early part of the 2024 Formula One season, as he was outperformed by Ferrari teammate Carlos Sainz, but third-place finishes at the last two races in Miami and Imola have given him momentum going into Monaco. Charles Leclerc, who is second in the Drivers' Championship behind Max Verstappen, has never finished on the podium at his home event and is hoping to achieve it this weekend behind the wheel of the SF24 car. After growing up in Monaco, Charles Leclerc must know the streets of Monte Carlo like the back of his hand. That makes his rotten luck at the Monaco Grand Prix over the past 7 years even more puzzling, as he is still waiting to celebrate a positive result in his home race. Now into his 7th season in Formula One, Charles Leclerc has raced 6 times at the famous Monaco street circuit and finished the race only twice. For a driver who has 5 race victories, 34 podiums, and 23 pole positions in his career, it is one of Formula One's unanswerable mysteries that he has so far failed to put the Scuderia inside the top 3. But there is optimism that this might be Ferrari's year, which would be their first victory in the Principality since Sebastian Vettel took the checkered flag in 2017, with Leclerc confident he can overcome his troubles.